So welcome to our webinar about the most common challenges. We're happy to have you all. My name is Benjamin. I'm the Customer Success and Content Lead at Conclass. I'm the new guy. Next to me is sitting Pelle, and of course Pelle is the founder and CEO of Conclass. Today we will be talking about the most common challenges that our customers have when they are using ConVoid in their projects. Just something about the webinar. At first, I will give you a quick overview over all the challenges, the 4 topics that we chose for today's webinar, and afterwards, Pelle will go into the practical part and show you how to address these challenges in actual projects. This webinar will be recorded, and we have a Q&A section. So if you have questions, please refer to the Q&A section. We will get to the questions afterwards in the end. So let's begin. Over the last couple of months, Pelle and we have been evaluating 5 years worth of customer support requests, and we were asking ourselves, how can we help? How can we help you make better use of ConVoid? And we came up with 3 tools to do that. First, we created an interactive help page. Then we totally restructured our user guide and created a new user guide. And of course, we created this webinar. Let me show you the interactive help page. You can find it on our website. It has a quick start section over here, depending on what you would like to do. We have a search function here, and if that is not enough, and if you want even more detail, you can check out our new user guide. It is a very extensive knowledge base, and so we have these 2 new tools, and of course, today's webinar. Today's webinar will focus on the topics of excluding elements, modifying openings, sizing and oversizing, and adopting openings. Let's jump into excluding elements. So let's say you want to exclude certain elements from being used to create openings. You might want to exclude non-bearing structures, and you are running into challenges like a ConVoid run marks openings as deleted, or you're struggling with a limited selection of family types. You have one option to exclude elements via the Properties menu, and tick this box here, Exclude from ConVoid, or you can exclude host and reference elements via a 3D view. When it comes to modifying of openings, let's say you want to manually change the shape, size, or elevation of an opening, and you're running into challenges like running ConVoid again undoes your changes, or elevation and level cannot be changed. Your go-to solution is to use ConVoid's Modify Void function. Talking about sizing and oversizing. Let's say you want to give your reference element an oversize, or different MEP systems require different oversizes. But you cannot realize different values for left, right, top, and bottom oversize. Or if you manage to do that, ConVoid resets the oversize after a new run, or different wall types need different oversizes. So we see our customers actually trying to tackle this challenge by using this dialog here. However, this is not the recommended workflow, as you will see later. Instead, the solution is to use ConVoid's Dimension Void function. By the way, we also offer training sessions and project support. So if by any chance you are using our freely available resources like the help page or the new user guide, and there are still questions unanswered, please feel free to contact us for a quote on a training session or project support. Coming to the topic of adopting openings, Let's say you want to adopt openings that were created by MEP and you're running into challenges like openings become recesses, or round openings become square, or unwanted openings are being created. For example, you might have the challenge that an opening is intersecting a floor slab and a wall at the same time, and when you're adopting the openings, a wall opening is created and a floor recess is created. Your solution for this is to use ConVoid's parameter filter and advanced settings. So now that you have the overview of our challenges that we're going to address today, I'm going to switch over to Pelle, and he will show you how to tackle these in an actual project.
Thank you, Benjamin. And good morning also from my side. Happy to have you here. And yeah, in the next 30 minutes, I will go through each challenge and how to handle it. So let's begin with the excluding of elements in ConVoid, using ConVoid in Rabbit. By default, ConVoid will use all elements in your project, even if they are not visible in your current view. That's the default behavior. So let's do a quick example. I have this MEP fabrication ductwork, and I will simply hide it from my current view. I start ConVoid to run the creation process. I will not go into the details here right now, but let's just create the first builder's work openings here. Great. As you can see, this opening got still created, even if the ductwork was hidden. But you can do a slightly change in your settings. Benjamin already told us how to do that, and that's these two settings. Include host or reference elements not visible in the selected 3D view. And by this 3D view is meant. So in case you disable these two options, or one of these options, ConVoid will not consider the elements which are hidden in this view. So in this instance, it's the 3D coordination view, but we recommend to use a 3D reference view. So how to start? Let's close everything. So first of all, I will duplicate my current view. I will rename it ConVoid reference view. And here I'm gonna tell ConVoid what to consider. So in case I hide my ductwork here, the opening will not be created. I'm just going to delete everything for a second before I just rerun everything here again. Okay, so I hided the ductwork, and I'm switching back to my active work view. I will also rename my active work view as ConVoid work view where. So now I have two different views. The one who is telling me what to consider, and the one which is telling me where ConVoid should calculate. The where view can also be a floor plan or a different 3D view, but here I'm telling ConVoid where to calculate openings. Yeah, and in this reference view, I will tell ConVoid what to consider during the calculation. So since I'm excluded or hided ductwork, ConVoid will not consider that during that creation process. So let's do that for a second. I will run ConVoid, and as you can see here, the ductwork is still visible. And now I'm selecting the reference view here. So let's start with that. I'm hitting OK, hitting refresh. I'm going to save my settings. And let's ConVoid calculate. Great. As you can see, no opening got created. So to continue, in which cases is this useful? For instance, to exclude non-bearing elements or to exclude some specific MEP elements. Let's have an example. So in this view, I will hide all non-structural elements. I already created the view filter. It's a simple parameter filter. I can create it the way I need it. And this also works with linked models. So I will hide my non-bearing elements. And I can also hide specific categories, for example, doors. And now I'm going to tell, or the way I did it now, I'm telling ConVoid to not use these hidden elements. To run the entire process, I always recommend to disable the section box to ensure you have the entire project visible. In case you have a small section box, ConVoid will only consider that small section as a reference and will probably provide you with the wrong results. So here, for example, I can reduce my creation scope. I can show my entire project. It doesn't matter. I'm just telling where to calculate openings. Let's do that. I'm just going to double check my settings. Everything is fine here. And I'm going to rerun ConVoid. And now let's have a look what's happening. As you can see, 22 openings got marked as deleted. Important to know, ConVoid never does delete openings automatically. So even this will show up, ConVoid never deletes any elements in your project. That's important to know. But how can we identify these deleted openings? Let's use the manage void feature, and I will just add a color filter. And in this case, the deleted ones are marked as orange openings. So basically, these openings here are marked as deleted. Let's have a closer look. Here, the drawn status is deleted. So I have to basically double check if the status is correct, and then I can delete it from my project. But as you can see here, we have still the drawing walls visible, but in our reference view, these are hidden elements. But as said, ConVoid will always look. Let's have it side by side. On the right, we have the active working view. It can also be a 2D view, as I said. It's nothing you have to consider about. You can use a random 3D view, but here you tell ConVoid where to calculate openings, and here is what to calculate for the openings. Good. Let's close the reference view. You can always close the reference view if you are done. I also recommend to make a quick note that other colleagues are not changing this view, because in case someone is changing or hiding an model, let's do that for the architecture model really quick. So accidentally, I hide the entire architecture model in this view. I will rerun ConVoid. And what will happen? ConVoid will mark me 51 openings as deleted, because I told him not to consider the architectural elements, so everything got marked as deleted. If something like that happens, always double check. And if you see that the reference view was wrong, then undo your calculations. So you can always switch back to ensure you do not work with wrong data. All right, I think now we are good to go to the next challenge, modifying openings. Let's switch to a 2D plan. And let's also run some further calculations in the upper floor. Perfect. Great. Now we have some more openings here, created here. Sometimes you need to modify openings manually after they got created by ConVoid automatically. You can do this by using the modify tabs here, or modify features. Let's do that with the alignment tool. In case I want to align it with this column, I can do so. The same applies for instance this floor opening. There we go. I can also join these openings afterwards if it's needed. But yeah, that's looks good. With these features, ConVoid will not reset the openings because it's using a specific parameter. Let's have a closer look. Instead of using the width, height, and depth parameter, which represent the actual size of the opening based on the reference elements, we are using the oversized left, right, back, front, bottom, top parameters, which are always can always be modified manually using the features or by just changing the values here. Let's have a closer look to a different element. Let's take this opening to give you a better overview. I'm just gonna remove the oversize from all sides, and as you can see, the opening represents the size of the duck, and this these values, width, height, represent the value of the size of the duck. So in case you would change these values, they will not match the duck size anymore. So in case I would rerun ConVoid now, ConVoid will change it. Let's do it differently. I'm gonna remove everything here. And now I will add 50 millimeters on the right and on the left. And then I have a total width of 300 millimeters. And furthermore, I'm just gonna extend it to the top edge of the floor. Let me just, here we go. And let's run it again. As you can see, ConVoid will still consider this opening as up to date because I simply worked with these oversized values. Of course, it can happen that you have to change these values. Let's undo everything. For instance, now I have changed it to 300, 300, and maybe I also have to move my opening. It can happen that's necessary to do it manually. But if you do so, always remember to exclude the opening from ConVoid. It will freeze the opening and ConVoid will not do any changes regarding this opening. So if I rerun ConVoid, it will tell me, okay, this opening got excluded, it stays where it is, no change in location, no change in dimension. Perfect. Good. And also you can use the rectangular, circular feature, or you can also change the level or elevation. So instead of changing the level here, I recommend to use the level elevation tool to change the levels for the openings. Good, that's about the modifying of elements. To get an overview what you can modify and what you should not modify, we have in our user guide this opening parameters chapter. And here you can see all the explanation of each parameter. Total diameter, total width. This is a read-only parameter. Then let's have a closer look to the dimensions. Diameter, width, height. Don't modify when auto-placed. So then you know you shouldn't touch these values. Or in case you do, then exclude the opening. Oversized dimensions. Edit manually or use ConVoid features. And this, for each parameter you will find in our opening families, you will get an overview what you can do manually or what you shouldn't do manually. Of course, if opening got created manually, for instance by simply copy pasting it, it will be marked as manually, and ConVoid will not track any changes because it's not related to any reference. So here you're free to change any parameters. Good. Next topic is sizing and oversizing. Let's switch to a fire damper. So as Benjamin already mentioned, some groups of openings need specific oversizing. Instead of oversize of 73 or 50 millimeters around the fire damper, I need maybe different values for the sides and different values for the top and bottom. With our standard settings here, oversize is just a fixed oversize on all sides. But this oversize value is, you should see it as a minimum requirement for these oversizes to have enough clearance to ensure enough clearance for the openings. And we always recommend to have 50 millimeters or 2 inches to ensure that it's possible to seal the opening again afterwards. So 50 millimeters is just the minimum requirement. Each opening which got created will get a 50 millimeter oversize. But now we do have some fine adjustments to do, and therefore we are using the dimension void. Dimension void is a feature which allows you to create filters for different opening groups. For instance, for cable trays, fire dampers, pipes smaller than 60 millimeters. So you are free to create and apply your project requirements here in the dimension void feature. But let's have a closer look to one filter. Let's take the fire damper as an example. If I select the fire damper, I have the selection between the value for the sides. In that case, it's 75 millimeters, and on the top it's 50 millimeters. And I already have filters all openings that are intersecting with the fire damper, and I can apply these values for this group of openings automatically by hitting apply. And as you can see, this got applied automatically. So in case I rerun ConVoid, the opening will stay as it is, as long as the fire damper is not changing the size or location. There's also the possibility to preserve oversizes. So if I enable this parameter, ConVoid will keep these oversizes at any cost or at any time. So these are fixed oversizes now, if I enable this parameter. Another use case would be a fixed size for openings. Let's assume you have round openings that are created based on pipes. And these pipes have maybe different diameters, starting from 50 millimeters up to 40 millimeters, then 60 millimeters. And I want to give all these openings a specific size for example, to drill them. Yeah? And if the driller has a specific diameter, which I have to consider, let's say 100 millimeters, I can define a fixed size of an opening. So now every opening has 150 millimeters. Instead of giving a fixed oversize, I'm just telling the maximum size of these openings should be 100 millimeters. And then ConVoid will calculate for each opening the specific oversize to ensure it has in total 100 millimeters oversize. And that's the way how I can ensure and how I can apply specific oversizes for a bunch of different groups in ConVoid. So let's assume you have specific host materials, you have specific pipe materials, you have fire rating walls, and so on. So you can consider all these requirements for the sizing in ConVoid. So how did we do that actually? I already created some filters, and if you have a closer look, this opening already got some specific parameter values. For instance, the reference type was included, the fire rating was included, the system abbreviation, and so on. I also have the material of the host. If I switch to the properties, you can see I filtered all the openings with the fire damper. How did we do that? We used, wait a second, we used the parameter transfer, probably a known feature. And here we transferred all kind of reference values or information to our openings. For instance, the system abbreviation, installation type, and so on, the fire rating of the host elements, and you can add as many parameters as you need, and you can transfer all type of parameters which are included in your project to the openings. So there's no limitation, and that's the way on how to enrich the openings with the necessary data to make it possible to group them as we did in Dimension Void. Good. Next step or next challenge, adopt openings. That's the crucial part for structural engineers and for architects. Let's switch to the architecture model. Oh wait, I'm just going to say that. Great. I'm here now in my architecture model. It could also be the structural model. And I have received an IOC file. Could also be a Revit file from an external partner. It can be a MEP engineer working in DDS-CAD. It can be a MEP engineer working on Revit, but without ConVoid. But now I have to adopt these openings into my architectural or structural model as good as possible. That's one of the main features using ConVoid. And but there are some specific settings you have to follow. To begin with, let's just adopt these openings. And then we will have a closer look. I already created the filters. The openings in the IFC file are marked as generic models, and I want to place them in walls, structural framings, floors, roofs, stairs, structural foundations, and so on. So basically, ConVoid should create openings in these host elements based on the openings in the IFC file. As said, can also be a Revit file. Can also be a different category compared to generic model. Depends on what your partner is delivering you. First of all, I have to ensure to enable this option, adopt provision for void or openings from a link model. What does it do and why it's so important? ConVoid builds a relation to the leading opening. And the leading opening is the one which is coming from, in that case, the MEP engineer. So ConVoid builds up a relation to ensure the tracking and the correct calculation of these openings. So if I enable that, ConVoid will build up the relation and also run a slightly different calculation in the back end. So that's one important option you always have to enable. We have some fallbacks, but we, as I said, enable it, and then you're on. You will get the best results. Next step, we have some limits we have to adjust. For example, the round openings become rectangular if the diameter is greater than. In that case, it's 100 millimeters. But 10,000 millimeters. But by default, if you start using ConVoid, that's the default setting. So you have to adjust these settings. I'm just gonna enable this really quick. Then I'm setting a high value, like 10 meters. You can simply type in 10 meters or 50 feet. ConVoid will convert these values. And based on that, ConVoid will keep the round openings round and not switch to rectangular ones. The same applies for join openings if the distance is less than 0 millimeters. And I also do not want to round up the opening dimension because I want to have the exact geometry. So that's important settings you have to do before you adopt openings. Let's run the clash detection, and here I'm just gonna keep it as it is right now, and we'll do the first run. And then we have a closer look. Okay, that's gonna ignore that. Can switch to floor plan. Yeah, I can see the symbols. That looks already quite promising. Here it looks also quite promising. As you can see, I created new openings. Behind the opening is the reference opening, still linked. What I do recommend to do a quick check if everything is correctly is to do a color match. So to do so, I will color the linked openings yellow. There we go. Perfect. And as you can see, if blue and yellow are overlaying, then we have green openings, and this looks good. So everything I see right now is matching. But for instance, here's something happening. We have this vertical opening, which is good, and we have here a vertical opening, but this is not matching the opening of the linked one. So why? Why did that happen? Let's have a closer look. Okay, what did I tell ConVoid to do? Use the generic models, so basically all the openings in the link file, and adapt them into walls, structural framings, floors, roofs, stairs, and structural foundations. Let's focus on the structural foundation. I told ConVoid to create vertical openings in the structural foundation. And that's basically what he did. He created a vertical opening based on the horizontal opening, which is placed in the foundation. But I have to tell ConVoid that in this case, this opening is a horizontal opening. So let's do a slightly modification. So there's also horizontal openings in structural foundations. So I will add structural foundations here. The next step is to tell ConVoid what openings are horizontal and what openings are vertical. And to do so, I'm using the parameter filter. Let's do a quick save. And then I will just inspect the parameters in my link models. These can be different from model to model. But for instance, here I can already read, okay, horizontal opening, circular opening, perfect. That's good to know. I can also check the types. And here, for example, I have the information about the horizontal, the opening. It can also be an abbreviation, wall opening or something like that. It doesn't have to be these namings. You just have to tell ConVoid, is it a floor opening? Is it a wall opening? Is it a wall recess? Is it a wall floor recess? And so on. So if you can define the type and the orientation of this of the opening based on the parameters, you can exactly tell ConVoid on how to calculate these openings. So let's do that. Here I will tell ConVoid to use the opening type opening. So in case here would be a recess, I would change the mode to recess, but since it's an opening mode, I will keep it as opening. Then the next one is the orientation. And here, as I already can see, there's the selection between horizontal and vertical. And the vertical one tells me already, okay, there's a clash between horizontal and vertical. And by selecting horizontal, ConVoid simply groups the horizontal ones into this calculation part. And the same pattern will I adopt down here for the vertical ones. Let me find orientation, vertical, and opening type, opening. Let's save the settings and let's rerun the entire process. Great. One opening got created, one got marked as deleted. So let's have a closer look. This one, I'm just going to select this one, was marked as deleted, so it's not required anymore, and that's true. And now ConVoid created this one as a horizontal opening in a correct way. So now every opening should match with the linked ones, and I can continue to work with ConVoid when receiving updates. So that's the best way on how to provide the best information for ConVoid to calculate correctly, because often there are some model inaccuracies or people are classifying elements wrongly, and with the parameter filter you are able to tell ConVoid on how to calculate these openings correctly. Good. Let me check. Did we? Yeah. That's how to tackle the challenges. Of course, there are some other challenges, but for this webinar, it's a good start, I think. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer them in the next 20 minutes. Please use the...
We have some in the Q&A. 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. Good. I will start with... yeah, the first one. When an opening cuts through both a wall and the floor, or through multiple separately model floor layers, ConVoid creates two openings with the same void ID in same void ID instead of one. Yeah, that's basically the one challenge I just showed you regarding the adopt opening. So let's say now I told ConVoid to just consider horizontal openings as horizontal, and I told ConVoid to use vertical openings as vertical, and that's the way on how to tackle that challenge. What if I want to add openings for only one discipline link? Do I need to keep all other disciplines linked open so as not for their opening status to be up to date, deleted? Yeah, to update one discipline. So what I recommend to do, I'm just going to share my screen again. Really, let me just switch to the architecture model, no, MEP model. So what I recommend is to create filters for each discipline. Let's say for plumbing, let's say for ventilation, for heating, and so on. So each discipline gets a filter, and these filters can run independently, because each opening is related to one filter. If you have a closer look, there's a filter ID, which tells me this opening got created based on the HVAC filter. And if I, for example, have to only update the electrical model, I simply run the electrical filter and do not consider the other filters like plumbing, ventilations, and so on. Good. Can ConVoid create voids as recess created from pipes, ducts running parallel to a wall? Yes, it can. But there's this setting you have to consider. Let me share. Okay, let me find one example. It will not be a good example, but it will demonstrate the use case. So let me just put duct directly parallel to the wall. Often these cases are model inaccuracies, so ConVoid will consider them as not required because it's often model inaccuracy. So if I run ConVoid with the default settings, you will see nothing will create it. But we have the option create horizontal openings if reference and host elements are parallel, and that's the case here right now. I will run it. I will also add a auto mod to ensure it will create the recess. And here we go. Here we have the recess based on the duct, but this option can be enabled for vertical and horizontal openings, but ensure or consider that often model inaccuracies causes unwanted openings. So be careful using this option. If you need to, you can enable it. And if you're modeling quite well, then it's totally fine. So there's the option to do so. Can ConVoid create voids caused by mechanical equipments or other categories? Yes, ConVoid can create openings based on all categories. The only requirement ConVoid has is that the elements we are talking about are modeled as 3D elements. Yeah, so you need a 3D solid or a 3D mesh, and based on that, ConVoid can create an opening. So even manufacturer objects can be used, or similar. All right, there are some other questions. When the external MAP engineer sends a new revision of their model, is it better to delete and reinsert all openings or to update the existing ones? For sure, update the existing ones, because then you have the full entire tracking process. You will have the change log. So if you receive a new model update from the MAP engineer, do not delete your existing ones. Simply run ConVoid again with the new version, and ConVoid will detect the changes, update the openings based on the changes, and you can consider or follow the entire change history of the openings during your project. Also regarding the approval and so on. So for sure, update the existing ones. Sometimes when adapting doors openings from architecture, the openings created is not the same dimension as the door in the architecture model, and this something related to, okay, that's a question we're gonna answer via email, because it's now, I'm just mainly focusing on the use cases we have right now, but we will give you the answer via email. How do you change the opening category? Use opening instead of generic model. Well, there is, we do not, or there's a limitation regarding the ConVoid openings. You can't change, or you can change the category, but you shouldn't change the category, because ConVoid only works with generic models. But let me say, if you are done with your creation process, you can simply change the category of the family and exchange it. But to work with ConVoid, it always have to be generic models. And how to change the openings category using openings instead of generic models? Question is why? If you need to create cutouts in your architectural or structure model, you can do that by using our openings. I'm just going to show you that in case you didn't see that right now. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So let's have a closer look. If I isolate this wall, you can see no cutouts are existing. But using the void manager, I will do that with this feature, and then ConVoid will create real cutouts. And then you are good to go to design your reinforcement or do some other use cases like quantity takeoff, clash detection, and so on. But as said, these categories has to be generic models in case you want to work with ConVoid. But if you need to exchange them to someone else, you can change them to mechanical equipment or so on. But that's not recommended. Could you talk about the benefits of adopting the openings directly into the architectural model versus keeping it in an opening model and linked in it? Well, the adopting of openings into the architectural structure model, the main benefit is to create the drawings and also to model the reinforcement or something like that, or to create real cutouts. But that's the final step, I would say. So if you are still in the approval process and openings are still not approved, I will keep them in the opening model until everything is approved, and then you can adopt them afterwards in the architecture model. But you can do it also right away, depending on the project you're working in. There are some more questions. Can ConVoid combine rules whereby it's reviewing parameters from the service that required an opening in combination with the wall it's pathing through to choose different opening sizes? For example, one service pathing through two different walls types may require different opening types. Yeah, that's possible. So you can use the parameter transfer and the dimension void feature for that. And that's a common thing to do using ConVoid. Is it possible to measure distances directly in a standalone mode? For example, the distance between void slabs without importing the model into Autodesk Revit or another BIM authoring tool? Yes, that's possible. But yeah, let me answer that question maybe at the end, because it's not related to the challenges we have right now. Next question. Does ConVoid remember previous geometry when using third parties IFC files that comes with new object IDs every time? Obviously, this should never be necessary, but sometimes you should have no hold on your peers. Yes, I can give you the answer. Yes, it's working. So let's assume you receive the first version of the openings from MAP engineer. And then the next week, you will receive version number 2. In one part, the MEP engineer deleted one opening and created a new opening with a total new ID. ConVoid can handle these relations. So in case the ID is not existing anymore, ConVoid tries to do a geometry match. So in case he sees, okay, there's a similar opening around the existing one, ConVoid will create a new relation to the opening to ensure there's no duplicates. So yes, that's possible as long the opening stays in this area. All right, we have 5 minutes left and three questions left. If you are working to guidelines such as the top of the opening cannot be closer than 200 millimeter to the above slab, can you tell ConVoid to not create openings that are less than the 200 millimeters? Let me think about that. The less than 200 millimeters. I'm not quite sure if I understand that correctly, the question, but I mean, I will try to answer that question, but I'm not sure if I got it right. Let me find that. Reload. I will share my screen again. So first of all, you can tell ConVoid to ignore openings smaller than 200 millimeters. I'm not sure if that's what you were asking for, but yeah. Then regarding the distance to the slab above, we have, let me just find an example. So it's quite easy to identify the openings which are to the distance to the upper edge of the slab. So using these parameters. So in that case, it's 800 millimeters. You can also use the level elevation tool. And then you have 800 millimeters. So you could quickly filter out these openings and adjust them if needed. Good. Is it possible to rerun openings and stop it changing or moving in any openings? Yeah. This is as we want to pick up parameters from the latest architecture model, such as wall types and fire rating. Yes, Matt, that is possible. So I will share my screen again. I already mentioned that during the webinar, but I will repeat that. So in case you want to ensure that ConVoid does not change the opening in size and location, activate or enable exclude from ConVoid. ConVoid will keep the dimension and the location of the opening as it is, but it will still receive the new parameters of the wall. So let's say the wall type is changing, the fire rating is changing, the parameters are still updating, but not the location or the dimension of the opening. Can openings have slope for slope pipe through foundations? Yes, that's also possible. I show you this directly in our example. Let's look at this one. Let's increase the slope, top, upper end. Okay, I'm just gonna do this. There's a slight slope in this. Wait a second. Is that apply? Okay, I'm just gonna use that and rerun ConVoid. Here, create openings with a slope. I will enable that. Hit run. And okay, this one was probably too small for a slope. Okay, that's how we want it. Let's delete everything. And did I enable that? Okay, here's a rotation in X. Yeah. I see it's took the wrong rotation. So instead of -2, it's 2. And then we have the slope in our opening. Good. I think I was able to answer most of the questions. We can answer the rest via email. We will share you the link to the record next week. And I hope you got a good overview of what ConVoid is capable to do. And thank you for being part of the webinar, and have a great day.